you guys, so welcome to part 2 of my eyeshadow palette collection video. I'm just going to include the last clip that I had filmed for the last video of my eyeshadow palette collection because I noticed that my video was getting too long to include all these palettes in one video. So now I'm going to show you guys my smaller palettes in my other drawer. So we're just going to start with these palettes over here. So the first one, I'm just going to angle this up a little bit more. The first one that I have is the Smashbox Full Exposure Mini Palette. This is like the travel size. I did get this from Marshall's. I got this because I wanted to try Smashbox's formula. I've never tried their eyeshadows before. So I thought that this was a good way for me to try them without overwhelming myself with like a huge eyeshadow palette. I thought just getting this mini one would be an easy way for me to test out the formula, see if I like it or not. And it's a good palette. It's just that I really don't ever reach for this anymore. I have so many other eyeshadow palettes that I reach for over this one. Honestly, most of my smaller palettes I don't really get too much use out of anymore. I do much rather go for my bigger palettes. So I'm thinking about possibly selling this online. I feel like I've given away way too many eyeshadow palettes for free. I mean, I gave them to Marley because I knew that she would use them and she just paid me for the shipping, and that is totally fine. And then she sent me the Storybook palette, which was thanks enough for me sending her all those palettes that I didn't use. And then I did give away a few palettes to my coworkers. I gave away the Vegas Nay Too Faced palette, the Kat Von D Shade and Light palette, the Naked 2 palette, and the Urban Decay Moondust palette. So none of those palettes are in my collection anymore. So I gave away about 16 palettes last year, which is crazy for me. I gave away about 10 palettes to Marley and like 4 to my coworkers. So maybe like 14 to 15 eyeshadow palettes. But I'm possibly going to start a Poshmark for myself because Marley keeps on telling me it would be a really good idea, and I definitely agree with her. So I might list some of these palettes on Poshmark, and this probably will be one of them. And then another one that I haven't used in such a long time that I'm probably going to list as well is the Urban Decay Ammo palette. I used to use this back in the day, but I definitely don't use this anymore. I did get it for a ridiculously good price from Ulta. I think I only paid $10 to $15 for this. I'm not really sure. I'm kind of thinking it was like 16 bucks, but again, that was really good. The shimmers in here are beautiful. But since I had most of these shades in other palettes, that's why I don't think I need to keep it. Sin and Smog were both shades in the Naked 1 palette, and Chopper was one of the shades in the Naked palette, the Naked 2 palette. But since I never used the Naked 2 palette either, that's why I gave away that one to one of my coworkers. It's always been my least favorite Naked palette. I still have all my other Naked palettes that I showed you in the last video, but this one I just never use anymore. It is an all shimmer palette that I don't use because all shimmer palettes are very hard for me to use. I end up giving all of them away. The only one that I've really kept that's like an all shimmer palette are the Jouer Skinny Dip palette and the Too Faced Glitter Bomb palette, which I'm possibly thinking about listing the Glitter Bomb palette as well. But this one I'm probably definitely going to list. I haven't touched that in such a long time. And I do have 2 mini Natasha Denona palettes. The first one is the mini Sunset palette. I'm thinking about possibly maybe listing this too because I don't think that the formula in the smaller Natasha Denona palettes are really that great. And since I have the bigger palettes, I really don't use this too much anymore. I haven't touched it in a while. I do go through phases where I use these a lot, but I just don't think it's worth me keeping this because it's just, you know, the formula is not that good in the in the smaller palettes. I think that her larger palettes are definitely way more superior formula wise than the smaller ones. I mean, this is a really pretty palette, but at the same time, like, I would only keep this for the shimmers. So yeah, I'm not really sure. But I am thinking about getting rid of a majority of not a majority of my palettes, but definitely a few more palettes. This one I would not get rid of though, because this is the Mini Star palette, because Chip did gift this to me when we did our makeup swap in November 2018, and these are really beautiful as well. I feel like if I cleared out more eyeshadow palettes in my collection, I could whip this out more. But this is a nice palette as well. I mean, I do prefer the Sunset one over this one, but it is really nice, and I would never resell something that she gave me because I feel like that would be really messed up. So, unless I exchanged it to get something else from Sephora, I could never part with that. So that's why I would keep that. Then the next one is the Buxom empty customizable eyeshadow palette. So Buxom does sell like 6-pan pre-made eyeshadow palettes. That was like their layout before they, and then I think they started doing, I don't know, they might have been doing this at the same time where you could do customizable eyeshadow palettes, and these are so cute. And I think it's such a great thing because I think they realize that like sometimes people don't like pre-made palettes. They always wish that like a certain color was in a palette that it's lacking. So you could do like 2 of these 6-pan eyeshadow palettes, and yeah, they're like $40, but in the long run, it's probably gonna be a palette of neutrals that you use all the time. So I put 6 of shades in here that I think that I would use the most, and these have a really, really nice formula. Buxom eyeshadows are really, really nice. Their shimmers are beautiful, and I put 4 mattes in here because I wanted a brow bone highlight. I wanted a pink shade to go with the pink shimmer, and these 2 shimmers were just stunning that those were the 2 shimmers that I wanted. I, of course, wanted a gold, and the pink shimmer was just so stunning. I was so torn between like 3 shimmers, and I was like, you know what, I really want a crease shade and an outer corner shade that I just decided to put 2 shimmers in here. And these have a really nice formula, so it is a really, really nice, fun idea to go get a customizable eyeshadow palette from them because, again, some brands just don't put enough eyeshadows in a palette that suit everybody. And I think that this is a great way for consumers to pick what they want. But again, you could do that with Colourpop single shadows. You could do that with Makeup Geek eyeshadows. But this is a really nice idea, and it is really nice that it comes in an eyeshadow palette. So I really do like the Buxom eyeshadow palette formula. I mean, the Buxom eyeshadow formula. Sorry, I need to grab my water. Like, my throat is so dry. Like, I really haven't drank that much water today because I literally just had breakfast and just hopped on to film. So, yeah, let me get down here again. Sorry. I'm just, like, so thirsty right now. Okay. Then, I have my Dose of Colors Baked Browns eyeshadow palette. This is the only eyeshadow palette that I have from Dose. And this is what it looks like. And you guys know this is one of my favorite palettes in my collection. I love these mattes. They're so beautiful. They're perfect for an everyday look. As you can see, I've had pan on this shade for quite a while. And I just love the formula of this. This is basically the palette that I reach for every time that I do a, I use like a single shadow. I always reach for this. I forgot that I have to whip out my Z palettes and show you guys those eyeshadows too. So, and I do have like another palette in there to show you guys. But yeah, you guys know how much I love the Dose of Colors matte formula. It's such a great formula. Then I have the infamous Becca Jaclyn Hill eyeshadow palettes. And again, I'll say this again, I really didn't think this palette was that bad at all. I didn't have any issues with this palette. I don't understand why there was such an issue with this, but I really liked mine, so, and I'm never going to give it away. I really like it, and I use it when I can, and I think the eyeshadows are actually really nice. These shimmer eyeshadows are actually stunning, so again, I don't really understand why people didn't really like it, but I didn't have any issues with it. I love these, and I'm going to continue to use it. So, yeah, I need to whip this out and use it again. I haven't used it in, I don't even know how long, but it's a good palette. Then I have a couple more small ones down here. So the first one is the Burberry Gold Shimmer number 28 Complete Eye Palette. I found this at Marshall's, and I think I paid like $14.99 for it, which is still kind of up there for 4 eyeshadows, but considering that these Burberry quads are like $60, they're like Tom Ford, Christian Dior prices, YSL prices, it was a pretty good price. And again, I just use this with like coinciding with maybe the Baked Browns palette, or I'll do like a whole look just using this and like popping something on my brow bone, because these shimmers are very silky smooth, that they look really pretty in the crease, and this is actually a really pretty palette. The shimmers in here are really nice. They feel very silky smooth. So I actually like this palette. It is a really nice palette. So I was thinking about possibly selling this, but this is the only eyeshadow palette that I have from Burberry, so I do want to keep this. Then out of all of these, I do have one drugstore palette, and I have the Wet n Wild Not a Basic Peach palette. This was a repurchased palette for me because I did break my first one that I had. So I got this one, and I ended up not paying for this at all. I think I used extra bucks from CVS, so it ended up being free for me. So I do really like the mattes in here, and the shimmers are okay. I do prefer the mattes a lot more in this palette than the shimmers. I just find that when I actually had repurchased this, that the formula was kind of not as good as the first one that I had. So I'm like kind of thinking maybe there was inconsistencies in the formula, and that kind of upsets me because like no one else has really noticed that. Like the company should correct that. Like I'm not saying I'm like the only consumer that noticed this, but I'm saying like if this was an issue, they should have corrected it. So, but I don't think enough people made enough noise about it, which is fine. It's definitely an older palette, and I don't think anybody really cares anymore, but it is a really nice palette from the drugstore. Very nice and compact. This is a great palette to travel with, and they're only like $7 a piece, I think, so they are really nice, and they come with 10 eyeshadows, which is a really good deal. And it's really nice and compact for travel. Then I have the Stila Eyes Are the Window Soul Palette. Originally, when I first wanted to get these Stila palettes, I had bought a different one, and I was not impressed with that one. So I decided, because I wanted to get one that was like kind of a mix of color and neutrals, but I decided to just get a neutral one, and I ended up obviously loving this one. That's why I have pan on one shade in here. But this one was actually a repurchase because I had broken the first one that I had, and I broke a hell of a lot more eyeshadows in it than I did in this one. This one I only broke one that I literally never used, so it wasn't too much of a big deal. But this was one I used to keep my makeup in my bathroom, and I felt like such an idiot when I broke it the first time. Because with the Wet n Wild palette, at least, like, I got that from CVS, and CVS has a really good program where you can use extra bucks. I got this from Ulta, I believe, and I know for Ulta you can eventually accumulate points that turn into dollars, but I didn't have enough dollars or enough points to use to like get this for free again. So it kind of hurt at the time getting it, but I don't regret getting it because I do really love this palette. It is really nice quality. The shimmers in here, I mean, Kitten is just, it's one of the most beautiful eyeshadows you'll ever use in your life. Like, Kitten is an award-winning eyeshadow for a reason. It is absolutely stunning. That's why I keep this palette for Kitten alone. Like, I could never get rid of it. Individual is one of my favorite crease shades. And what's crazy is that I hit pan on this one, and I've had this palette a lot less time in my collection than other eyeshadow palettes that I tried to goal myself to hit pan on, which I'm about to talk about in a second. And I hit pan on this eyeshadow first, and this was a repurchased palette because I used the last one that I broke a lot before I had gotten this one, and then I used this one a lot too, so obviously enough for me to hit pan on another eyeshadow. So, and then I have two more mini Too Faced palettes. I had already given away the Boudoir Eyes one to Marley, and I think she gave that to Confessions of a Makeup Addict. But I kept these two myself. I obviously could never give away this one. This is the Too Faced Natural Eyes palette. I still really love this palette. I do think that this was when Too Faced actually made good products. And the packaging on this is just so beautiful. It's just so girly and stunning. And this is what this palette looks like. And I think a lot of you guys know what this palette looks like, but this is still a great palette for me to whip out and use when I want a simple eye look. And it still turns out really pretty every time. I was trying to hit pan on Silk Teddy for the longest time, and I just gave up because Too Faced palettes or Too Faced eyeshadows are very, very hard to hit pan on, from what I've seen from other YouTubers. But this is a really nice basic palette, and it's one of my favorite cool tone eyeshadow palettes in my collection. And then the last mini palette is the Too Faced Peanut Butter and Jelly palette. I really don't use this one too much anymore. I mean, I did whip it out and use it a little while ago, but that was why I was kind of inclined to give away my Semi-Sweet Chocolate Bar palette, but since that, I'm pretty sure my boyfriend got that for me for Valentine's Day a few years back. I was like, I can't really get rid of it. Maybe I'll end up getting rid of this one instead, but I do like the formula in this palette more than the Semi-Sweet palette, so I just feel like at the time I was so sucked into getting this because of the damn peanut butter shade. But these shades are really nice. The shimmers are really nice in this palette. Bananas is such a beautiful shade. It's my favorite shade in the palette. And it's good. It's a good palette. So I don't know if I'm going to sell this or not. I might end up selling this too. I just really want to get rid of more eyeshadow palettes. And I feel like if I sell them, I won't feel as guilty about getting them out of my collection because at least I'll make some money off of them instead of just giving them away to people. I'll feel a lot better that I could make a little bit of money back at what I spent on the palette. And then I have a couple of bigger palettes. I do have my Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette. I don't use this palette anymore. I only keep it because it has such value to me, because this is the first palette that I've had the most pan on, and I was really proud of the progress that I made in this palette. And this was not me really goaling myself too much to pan this palette, but I knew that there were certain shades in here that weren't going to be hard for me to pan after I had panned Vermeer and Primavera, which was crazy that I even panned the shimmers first over the mattes. But I knew I was going to pan Cypress Umber because that was my outer corner shade that I used in the palette. And then Tempera was my brow bone highlight, so I knew I was going to pan that too. And then Venetian Red just ended up being a bonus. But I don't use it anymore because I've noticed that the formula has changed a ton. Maybe I'll do like a throwback video and use it at some point, maybe like next week or something, because there are still quite a few palettes that I want to use this week that I need to get some use out of again. But it just makes me very proud that I could hit this much pan in a palette. So it made me very happy. I'm dropping my makeup brush. But yeah, it does make me happy to whip out this palette from time to time and see how much pan I have in it. It just, you know, it's satisfying. So, and then I have some bigger palettes. The most recent addition to my collection was the Storybook palette. This is the Fairy Tale Storybook Cosmetics palette, and this is the Briar Rose palette. Like I said, this one was given to me by Marley, and I have used all the shades in it, and I'm going to use it again today. I did use it again yesterday after I didn't use it for like a week because, again, I wanted to get use out of other palettes. And I do prefer the shimmers in this palette over the mattes, but I am going to do a get ready with me today using this because I've only posted one look using it besides in my live stream, which I did use it in my live stream too, and I did do the same look that I did in the live stream. I did that yesterday. I used it to do my makeup yesterday to go out. So I am going to use it for work today, and I'm probably going to do like a bluer look. So, but the shimmers in here are freaking stunning. I'm definitely going to talk about this in my favorites video, and of course I love the packaging, and you guys know Sleeping Beauty is my favorite princess, and I just thought that the, whatchamacallit, I'm so tired right now, like literally so tired. I really didn't sleep that well last night. It was a struggle to fall asleep last night, and I didn't really do a good job, so I thought that the Becca Cosmetics Sleeping Beauty palette was like too overwhelming for me to get. It had like 20 or 30 eyeshadows in there, so I think that this is a lot easier for me to use, and it is a really nice palette. And then I have my Too Faced, what is this called again? I'm pretty sure this is called the La Grande Palette palette. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it is one of the Christmas palettes that Too Faced came out with quite a while ago, and I'm honestly thinking about possibly selling this as well, because the only time that I whip this out is Christmas. I only use it Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. But at the same time, this was when I was really set on getting a Too Faced holiday palette, and this was the only one that I really wanted to get because that was like one of my goals. And I do just keep it on display because I do really like this palette, but it's like kind of pointless for me to keep because, I mean, I did purchase it like 4 years ago, so I don't really regret buying it. And it is a nice palette, but for me to only use it twice a year, I feel like it could go to somebody else that will use it more. But it is a really good palette. I do love that you get a bronzer in here. These two blushes are beautiful, and this highlight's really stunning as well. And it's actually a really good palette to travel with because you have like a lot of options in here. I like that they put 2 blushes in here, so you can just do like a one and done kind of thing, and this would be the only palette you would have to use. So it's a good palette, but again, I just feel like it's just sitting in my collection because I don't really use it. Then I have another display piece that I probably will never get rid of, is the Urban Decay Alice Through the Looking Glass palette. This palette is a good palette, and I really only keep it because of the packaging. I really don't keep, but that's the thing, like I can justify keeping this and this palette because I only keep these palettes for collector's reasons. I mean, I have used every single shade in these palettes. Like, I'm not that type of person that doesn't use these palettes, but I don't use them enough. But I think that this is a collector's piece in my collection. I love that it looks like a chessboard, and I do really like this palette. I do use it when I can, and I do really like creating looks with this palette. And you guys know I have a soft spot for Urban Decay. I love their eyeshadow palette, so I'm probably never going to get rid of this one either. I might end up selling it at some point, but I really got to start a Poshmark and see if people are going to purchase some of my palettes, because that way I can put it into trying new palettes if I get rid of more eyeshadow palettes, I can purchase other palettes that I'm interested in trying, and I won't feel as overwhelmed because I've gotten rid of more palettes. So, and of course, this one I'm never going to get rid of because my boyfriend did buy this for me. The first Christmas that he bought me makeup, he got me the Urban Decay Electric palette, and I could never give this away. Obviously, I don't use it anymore because it is very, but this packaging is like top notch. The packaging is so amazing on this palette, and this palette is so good, you guys. It's been very well loved from me. I used to use this for every single colorful look that I did, and I love it. It's one of my favorite palettes in my collection still, but I don't use it anymore. But it has such nostalgic value to me because the Naked 3 and the Electric palette really started my love of makeup. And again, I could never get rid of this. So it's a stunning palette. Of course, it's one of those OG favorite palettes of a lot of people. And then the last one that's on display up there, this one is a bitch to store, but I do love this palette. This is the Kat Von D Metal Matte palette. I like that you can reverse it and it says matte, and then you can turn it around and it says metal. I think that's so cool. You guys know that this was like one of my sought after palettes for me to get in like holiday 2017, I think. And this was when everybody was like obsessed with Kat Von D. Now, not so much anymore, but since I gave away the Shade and Light palette, I could never get rid of this one. This palette is so beautiful. And it has absolutely everything you could possibly need in it. The mattes are really nice and the shimmers are beautiful. So I do love that it comes with a ton of Metal Crush eyeshadows in here. I think that this is a way better value for your money to get this rather than spending it on like 3 individual Metal Crush eyeshadows, because those shits are expensive. But this palette is beautiful. So now let me just grab my single shadows real quick. Okay, and now I'm going to show you guys the last roundup of my eyeshadows. And these are mostly single shadows, but I forgot that this Marc Jacobs eyeshadow palette was on my desk. I was... Excuse me, hold on. And I also did get dressed for work. I can't stay in my pajamas all day. She almost gave me off today, though, so I was kind of tempted to stay in my pajamas today, but I do need to work today. So anyway, I was thinking about possibly selling this one as well, but then I was like, it's Marc Jacobs, and I really don't want to lose how much I paid for on this, because I know that someone would only pay probably like $15, $10 for this, and this was a $50 eyeshadow palette. So this kind of has nostalgic value to me too. This one is called the Lover palette. I would call it the Dreamer palette for so long. I don't know why I could never get the name right when the name is listed right on the back of this palette. But it is like a kind of accomplishment for me because I did get like a high-end eyeshadow palette, and I love Marc Jacobs, so I couldn't get rid of this one. This is actually a really pretty palette. I don't really use it too much anymore, but when I do use it, I do get some pretty looks out of it. I was almost inclined to use it for Valentine's Day, but I didn't get a chance to use it because I use like so many other pink eyeshadow palettes, but I do want to use it at some point again. And then I do have one other pre-made eyeshadow palette in this drawer that I'm going to go through, which is my MAC Warm Neutral 15 Pan eyeshadow palette. This is when they came out with a few pre-made eyeshadow palettes like 2 years ago or so, and I did purchase one because I did want to have more staple MAC shades in my collection. And these are the only other MAC shadows I have besides the ones I'm about to show you in my Z palettes. But this is a nice palette as well. They have some pretty popular shades in here. Like, the only reason why I really wanted this palette was because Amber Lights was in here, and this was the reason why Kathleen Lights named her channel Kathleen Lights, because of this one eyeshadow, which is called Amber Lights, and it was like her favorite eyeshadow of like all time. And this shadow is so stunning. Like, I really want to whip it out and use it again. And then they have Saddle in here as well, which is a super popular MAC shade. And the rest of these are really beautiful too, so I do really like that palette too. And then I do have some single MAC shadows in this first Z palette that I'm going to show you guys. So this is my Big Mama Z palette. I don't support Z palette anymore. This was just back, I had purchased these super large Z palettes like 3 or 4 years ago, so I'm not exactly going to get rid of them just because the company sucks now. I'm still going to use them to store my eyeshadows, but I haven't bought anything from them and I don't even know how long. So, just saying that first. So, I do have my staple Makeup Geek shades in here in the first 2 rows and the 3rd row as well. It does end here, and this is where my MAC eyeshadows start. This is Blanc type. Oh my god, Caitlin! Hold on. Okay, sorry, that really was stupid. So, I'm just gonna hold it like this, because I feel like the other way was just really dumb. So anyway, because I'm gonna hold it one-handed like this. So, from this shade to this shade in this row are all my MAC shadows. So Blanc type, then I have Nylon, All That Glitters, Soft Brown, like all staple MAC shades, Copper Ring, which was literally Jaclyn Hill's favorite eyeshadow from MAC, etc. And then in the last row are all of my single shadows from Anastasia Beverly Hills. I have Birkin, I have Sienna, I have Amber, I don't remember what it's called, Amber, I think. Really pretty eyeshadows as well. I love the matte shadows from ABH as well. So this is pretty much a staple neutral palette for me, along with my smaller one by Colourpop. But these were pretty much my staple shades before Colourpop came into my life. That's why I have pan on so many. These are all my Makeup Geek shadows that I would use all the time. Peach Smoothie, Beaches and Cream, Creme Brulee. I really have to use up Beaches and Cream. Peach Smoothie and Creme Brulee. I'm so close to using them up, so I really got to do that. So yeah, love these shadows. And then I do have my smaller Colourpop palette. And you guys see this so much in my videos, but these are like my staple shades from Colourpop. I could go anywhere with these. And this would be the one palette I would need for any neutral look. I just put 12 of my staple shades from Colourpop in here, and I love them. That's why I pan on so many. Firefly, Hear Me Out. Which one is this one? Wake Up Call, Note to Self, and Let Me Explain. I have pan on all of those, and I'm working on panning more, hopefully. But yeah, I do have pan in a lot more single shadows than I do in my palettes. And then my last round of Makeup Geek shadows are these guys in this Z palette, and these are all of my foiled shadows from Makeup Geek and all of my duochromes. The first 3 rows are all of the foiled shadows. I was really set on collecting the foiled shadows when they first came out, and they are freaking stunning, honestly. I don't know, like, how long these actually last. They're probably, like, not as good anymore, but I would never get rid of them until, like, maybe, like, a few years from now, but I am definitely not ready to part with these anytime soon. I do like using them on the inner corners from time to time, but I really don't use them too much anymore. But they used to be my favorite shadows to use on the lid, and then I accumulated so many damn eyeshadow palettes that I just don't use them as much anymore at all, really. But they were definitely one of my obsessions when I first got them. And then the last 2 rows are all of my duochromes from Makeup Geek. I had bought these in the bundle, so I had all of the duochromes at the time that she had come out with. And they were all really beautiful as well. They weren't as good as the foiled shadows for me, but some of them are absolutely stunning. I love this yellow shade. I love Karma. I love these 2 peach shades, like I'm Peachless. They're beautiful shades. I love Black Light as well. This was a lot of Beauty Guru's favorite shade. They would talk about that shade all the time. But there's some staple shades in here that I love as well. And then the last round of eyeshadows, besides the ones in this palette, These are all my Sugar Pill shadows. I do have a few from Makeup Geek in here as well. I did stick some of them in here because they just didn't fit in my other eyeshadow palettes anymore. I think I stuck them in here when I went to Connecticut the last time because I wanted to use like a smaller, I think I put like a couple of eyeshadows and like 2 blushes in here so I could like really cut it down the last time I went there. But anyway, I have my Sugar Pill eyeshadows in here. I only have 6. Then I have some Luxie Beauty pigments. I have 2 highlighters from them. These are both absolutely stunning. And then I have these 2 bigger highlight slash eyeshadows from them, and they are so pretty, you guys. This one did shatter or start like breaking down, but I forget what they're called. This one is called Sun-Kissed Mermaid, and this one is called Free Spirit, and I did hear a bunch of good things about those, so that's why I got them. And then I got the 2 highlights, and the highlights are stunning. This one's what unicorns are made of, and this one is called what mermaids are made of. So freaking beautiful. I love mixing them together. They're really intense and beautiful. Sugar Pill, I'm not really too crazy about their eyeshadows. I don't really get the hype about them. I definitely prefer Lime Crime's formula over these. The one that I love, though, is this red shadow, which is called Love Plus. This would have been the only one I would have purchased. I do like the orange, too, but the rest of them are not that impressive to me. I didn't really understand the hype about them. I much prefer Lime Crime's formula over Sugar Pill. Regardless if my makeup brushes were clean or not, I didn't think they performed as well as everybody said that they did. And then I just have a few Makeup Geek shadows on here. I have some that I really don't use anymore, and then the rest of my foiled shadows. These are stunning as well. And then I just have a few Colourpop shadows in this one. And then that completes my eyeshadow palette collection. I just wanted to show you more of my single shadows, but if you guys want to see more of my single shadows, I do have more from Colourpop. I could just do a video on that of like the Super Shock shadows and stuff like that. But these are my last single shadows from Colourpop in here. A couple of mattes and a couple of shimmers, and that is pretty much it. And then these are my Colourpop blushes. So that is it, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I am probably going to keep the last part of the first time that I filmed in that video. I'm just going to make this part 2. So go check out part 1 as well. So yeah, I love you guys. Please like and subscribe. Follow me on all my social media. Bye.